Hello, it is Saturday, January 8th, 2022. I'm Chris Remo, and welcome back to my New York Times Crossword Daily Solve. It is a Saturday puzzle, and to be honest with you, looking at the grid, this is ridiculous. This is quite an intimidating puzzle. I shouldn't delve into it just yet because I will have to do so at much greater length in a moment. But boy, wow, look at that thing. Anyway, this edition of the Daily Solve is brought to you by Calixto Navarro, as well as a newcomer, benefactor, Bradley Pirtle. So welcome, Bradley. As well as always, the inestimable Hood Monster. So thank you, Calixto, Bradley, and Hood Monster, for your generous support, benefactors of the Daily Solve Patreon campaign. If you'd like to join their ranks to help support this channel and this series and get a whole bunch of bonus videos, and possibly even, if you are a benefactor, the Let's Check the Crosses mug, you can find that at patreon.com/dailysolve. There's a link in the description field underneath the video. Thank you to everybody who's backed the Patreon campaign at any level. Also, one more mention of the Daily Solve Discord chat server. You can find a link to that in the description field underneath the video. And the new Wordle channel, which is continuing on apace with people posting their little Wordle graphics. Maybe I'll solve the Wordle at the end of today's video again. We'll see. Anyway, let's quickly discuss just a few comments from yesterday's puzzle before moving on to today's. Phil explains regarding Social Security numbers, SSNs, which apparently changed their method of construction in 2011. Phil says, you had it correct. Social Security numbers had 5 of 9 digits that were assigned based on location of birth. Turns out that makes them very easy to guess if you know where someone was born. So in 2011, all the digits were randomized for new Social Security numbers. That explains that. And Remy explains that in French, être de bon ton, literally, to be of good tone, means to be well-mannered, and it mainly applies to concepts. For example, it is de bon ton to hold the door for someone. You would never have it without the de in front, so I was a bit confused by both the clue and the answer. That's good. With my fairly limited French, I was not aware of that phrase, so I'm glad to have been informed. And so Rhett Boy has a comment about my confusion of house for horse and the clue regarding betting, and I had put house on there because of its association with bets, and the answer ended up being horse, as in to place a bet on horses. And Red Boy said, I'd bet you were thinking of I'd bet the house on something for a very large but very safe bet. For that clue turned out to be horse. Red Boy also adds, unrelatedly, it seems like those Wordle puzzles are the most difficult to solve the fewer words it could conceivably be. And I think that's true. I think strangely, that is the case. When there are fewer possibilities, it actually can be harder because you have less of the experience of narrowing in on something. You have to sort of suddenly figure out, you have to make a bit more of a leap yourself to whatever the rare word that the answer could be, or the less intuitive word. We'll test that concept maybe at the end of today's video, unless this Saturday takes me absolutely ages, which it might. I fear it. So on that note, let's attempt to solve today's crossword. A Saturday crossword constructed by Freddie Chang. Freddie Chang has done, I don't know, I was looking him up earlier, maybe about a dozen-ish puzzles for the New York Times, so certainly no newcomer to the crossword. I think he might be English, or at least grew up in England, but now is a New York resident. I don't know, who knows if that probably doesn't have any relevance to today's crossword. It was just something I happened to notice. Anyway, boy, look at this thing. There are so many long answers, so much empty space. I wonder what the typical ratio of black to white cells in a crossword would be. This one, clearly lower than average. Anyway, let's get started. Shouldn't waste any more time. I'm going to need it all, I bet. Number pattern named after a 17th century French mathematician. It's not the Fibonacci sequence, is it? No, that doesn't sound French. Oh boy, this is probably something I should know, and I hopefully will when I see it, but I'm not sure offhand. Teddies and such. Could be an article of clothing, could be a teddy bear toy, could be the name Theodore, potentially. That seems the least likely of those. Exhausted beyond belief. He's tired as a dog. That doesn't fit. Bone tired, tired beyond belief. Oh, I don't. Exhausted beyond belief, sorry. Certain account information. Feels though there are, an account is abbreviated. It feels though there are quite a few abbreviations and numbers and things that could be. Diatribes, rants, raves. Longtime distributor of James Bond movies. Okay, here's our first write-in. MGM. That one's quite straightforward. Longtime distributor of James Bond movies, indeed. Reaction to a really bad pun. Boy, I really hope MGM is correct. I'm pretty sure it is. Reaction to a really bad pun. This feels like I should be able to get it. Stretches. Could be stretches, meaning the physical act of stretching, or it could mean a stretch of time, for instance, a period of time. Lean protein. It's going to be something meat. What about this? Lot. I don't know, an acre of land. It doesn't really seem very plausible. Blank Gervaisi, actually don't know precisely how this is pronounced, but I think I recognize the director of 2012's Hitchcock. I think Sasha Gervaisi is the director's name. Mammal in the Saurasidae family, I'm not sure. Increased likelihood of extreme scenarios in statistics, interesting. Wonder what that is. Reaction to a really bad pun. So this could be a description of a reaction, or it could be verbally the reaction. I mean, the most obvious thing would be a groan, but I don't. Is this Sasha? GH stretches. Could end in an S. Is this? Maybe this isn't Sasha. Boy, this is going to be a tough puzzle for me, isn't it? Basic analysis, and there's a question mark. So there's some sort of pun or wordplay. Basic analysis. Oh, a pH test, I bet. In other words, that was weird. In other words, testing the acidity of a substance. Basic being the opposite of acidic. Or I don't know if opposite is the correct term for that scientifically. Anyway, boy, I'm kind of losing my confidence about Sasha. I'm going to remove it for now. Golf Hall of Famer, Suri. Sports Clue. Not going to be great for me. Mini blank, a small retailer. A mini mart, maybe. Mini market. Oh, maybe this is Sasha, actually. This could be a shrew, mammal in the Saurasidae family. And then if this were an A, increased likelihood of extreme scenarios in statistics. Not sure. This could be POW, PAO, or PAU, perhaps. Pan, maybe. Just trying to think of plausible names. Only MLB team never to have played in a World Series. Oh, wow. I certainly don't know, but it's interesting. Eschew Uber, say, take a bus or take a cab. Actually, take a cab is probably more likely because it's more of a direct eschewing of Uber. Rideshare service. Certain sports instructor. What sport would start with C? Boy, I feel as though I'm drawing a lot of blanks today. Blank player, first black woman to become president of a 4-year college. Interesting. I'm trying to think of names that could fit in here that start with a W. My first thought was Wanda, but that doesn't look plausible with this N. I guess this still could be something other than cab, but I bet it is cab. Whatever's left. Well, it could mean left as in whatever remains, but it could be left politically, could be left as in something literally to the left in space somehow. Works that may require leaps of imagination, ? Don't think I'm acquitting myself very well on this puzzle today. Diatribes. And here we have, for once, maybe someone will call me blank without adding, you're making a scene. Homer Simpson. I don't know, pal or something. I don't know this Simpsons quotation, so I'm actually not sure. I'm just trying to imagine what it could plausibly be. Savory Indian pastry. It could be a samosa or a pakora. Pakora would work with pal, but I just sort of pulled that out of nowhere. I have no reason to suspect that's the answer. I was just kind of trying to imagine what someone could. The reason I said pal, to explain my arbitrary guess there, is that you could imagine someone saying, boy, I wish someone would call me something familiar. In other words, something that sounds friendly like pal. But then obviously the joke is that it could turn into something patronizing or pal, you're making a scene. That word can be used sarcastically as well. That's why I thought maybe. Setting for La Boheme, Paris, right? Diatribes. Uninspired as writing. Is La Boheme set in Paris? Now I'm doubting everything. Some stylish suits. Right. Only MLB team never to have played in a World Series. Mariners? And I know that team name. Oh, Sir. That's better than Powell. Okay, that fits the format I was trying to imagine, but it's much better. For once, maybe someone will call me Sir without adding "you're making a scene." Okay, that works. Oh, and diatribes or tirades. Why didn't I think of that right off the bat? That's very frustrating. Some stylish suits, Armani's. So I was trying to think of a category of suit, but in fact, it's the name of a fashion house. Uninspired as writing. Why can't I think of that? That's driving me nuts. Like the most recent Pope Paul among all popes named Paul, Paul VI, and jewelry store, a safe perhaps. So we have a question mark here indicating some kind of pun or wordplay. So I suspect rather than a store meaning an establishment where you'd buy jewelry, it means a place where jewelry is stored, a store, a cache of jewelry, which might be a safe. Okay. Do some modeling. Well, a model could be an example. I wonder if that would be this EXA there. Looks like it might host the word example. Russian fighter jet is a MiG. There we go. And what about this? Life is short. Jacques Torres quip. And then here we have captain's phrase. As she goes. Steady as she goes. Looks like it fits in there. Steady. There we go. Okay. And here we have seasoned. Aged, maybe? A seasoned veteran, an aged veteran. Here we have Canine Protection Organization with a question mark. So the question mark, again, pun or wordplay. I bet that'll be around canine. And rather than referring to a dog, which you might expect, this probably refers to canine teeth. So this is probably a dental organization of some kind. Maybe the ADA, the American Dental Association, seems plausible. What was this again? Oh, right. Life is short. Okay, so this T and F surely are not the same word. So this SERT is probably the end of a word, which is an unusual end of the word. So probably dessert. Is that what dessert? Life is short. Eat dessert first. Okay, I don't know the quotation, but it fits. I think it fits the... uninspired as writing is prosy, so not very beautiful or ornate. It's sort of unremarkable. Seasoned, maybe it is aged. Yeah, I bet it is aged because that makes a good example. Do some modeling. Set a good example. So be a good model of behavior, for instance. Set a good example. Okay, finally we found our break into this puzzle. We've got 3 long answers, which always feels good because it's plenty of crosses. Certain sports instructor, so some kind of pro. Okay, I did think pro was pretty likely at the end, but that's not the part I was trying to imagine what the first part is, which is the sport itself. A golf pro? Does that take a... Don't know. Whatever's left. Something else? Measure of volume. A bell. So a decibel, 1/10 of a bell, maybe. Measure of volume, audible volume, whereas my first thought was physical volume, a unit of volume, like a cubic meter or something. Certain sports instructor, although I still don't see what this is. Club pro, like at a golf club or a tennis club? Is that a phrase? Don't really know. Calm. Yeah, I'm still not really sure. Whatever's left. And works that may require leaps. Oh, ballets. Ballets may require leaps of imagination. In other words, and there's a question mark, so again, pun or wordplay. You could imagine the choreographer has to imagine the physical leaps that the dancers will take in a ballet. So this does look like Take a Cab, doesn't it? So what am I not seeing about this? Is it Club Pro? Whatever's left. Very sorry if you're seeing what I'm missing here. Calm, and then what is this again? Increased likelihood of extreme scenarios in statistics. Boy. Reaction to a really bad pun and stretches. Oh, right. I wasn't sure if this was Sasha, even though that was my first thought. Let's look elsewhere and come back to it. Sometimes that helps. Small knapsack. Probably ends in et, which would be a suffix to make something small from the French. Hominid. So hominid, a creature that walks on two legs. That's a biped. What is a hominid? I can't quite remember. National Geographic books. Atlases, perhaps. We have the question mark. So a first thought would be this refers to the brand National Geographic, but Geographic is not capitalized, and also there's the question mark, so probably that. Oh, hominid and ape. There we go. So I think it's related. I think it's maybe a subset of bipeds, but I can't remember exactly what a hominid implies, which, having said that, will guarantee that someone tells me in a comment. Taking off and more steadfast could be truer. You're steadfast, you're true. And one way to manage expectations, and then here we have again, which could be I repeat. Taking off. Left, as in I'm taking off, but doesn't really fit the same part of speech in a sentence. And what was this again? Small knapsack. I'm not sure, actually. Taking off. Why do I not see what that is? That's very frustrating. Here we have one way to manage expectations. I don't know. I really feel as though I'm missing quite a few obvious things in today's puzzle. Tenths in statistics. Well, oh, is this less? As in, yes. As in, speaking of tenths, you could say taking off 10%, less 10%. Okay, so small knapsack. Why do I not see what that is? That's very frustrating. Taste. And that could be a verb or a noun. Spreadsheet specification. A row, perhaps? You could have a row of a spreadsheet, specify that. I see. One way to manage expectations. I was looking for an adverb here. So I was looking for something like carefully, something that would modify a verb. But in fact, this is a directive. You would say, aim low. You'll manage expectations by aiming low. That is the way to manage them. Okay. Certainly, I have some expectations management around this crossword and my ability to rapidly fill it out. Taste. Oh, sapor. So yes, the taste of something. I presume this is what this is going to be. And market debuts and brief. Should have looked at this earlier. IPOs, initial public offerings, when a company becomes listed on a public stock market. And tenths in, deciles in statistics. Tenths, yes. I think that was, I get this a lot when I'm solving the crossword, especially on video. which, I mean, it can't help but make a difference to my solving, unfortunately, although I think I'm maybe getting better at that. Anyway, the equivalent of, say, a percentile, a decile, a tenth bracket, sort of. But anyway, the thing I was going to say was I think I had this word in my brain but couldn't access it, which is something I'd really become very conscious of solving these crosswords on video, is that there's something about doing the video solve that occupies sort of a certain percentage of my brain that solving a crossword off video wouldn't do. And occasionally I feel as though it strangely locks words behind little doors that I have trouble opening. Anyway, immersed in could be amid. And that's, sorry, just to finish that thought. And that sensation is it's very specific. It's very different than just not knowing a word or not having an idea of a word. It's a very odd thing to know that I have a word in my brain, but not being able to find it in a way. It's very interesting. Mapo Valley export. See, this is something I just don't know. I have no idea what that is. Pings, maybe. Could be IMs, maybe instant messages, or DMs, direct messages. You ping somebody. The maybe, I think, gives the latitude for it to be something like that, but I'm not sure. Although it does probably end with an S, actually. And Yelp reviewers say yes, or would also end with S. Could be, and here's another say, so similar to the maybe. In other words, this could be diners, for instance. I'm not saying it is, but the say, Yelp reviewers say, diners would be an example of a Yelp reviewer, someone who would review an establishment on the online sort of crowdsourced review service Yelp. Union IDs for a performer, something cards, SAG cards maybe, Screen Actors Guild cards maybe. That seems likely, actually, because two-person log cutters is a plural, so that would end with an S, so SAG cards probably correct. Loss of smell. This is definitely a word I know, and will remember when I see it. Biblical punishment. Smiting, perhaps? Mapo Valley Export Wines. Is Mapo Valley a winery hub, perhaps? It seems likely. Two-person law cutters would be a saw. It would be some sort of saw. And certain account info. What could this be? It doesn't seem like there should be very many options. I suppose smiting could be incorrect. I mean, this could be SSN, speaking of social security numbers, which we did, although I want this to be an O, maybe. Does that work? Certain account information. I don't know. Let's keep looking around. LOC, abbreviation, I'm not sure. Marcelo, Rodolfo, Colleen, and Chonard dans La Bohème. Oh, that's funny. Didn't we have another? Yes, we had another La Bohème clue. So the dans is a French word. It's funny that they mix and in English and dans in French in La Bohème. Maybe ami in French for friends. Diatribes. Okay, that actually works because, well, that's plural. So, and this is an and clue, which means this will be a plural answer, where if it had said or, we'd be looking for a singular version of the answer. So this S doesn't necessarily confirm anything about my actual answer. It just confirms that it's a plural. But anyway, screeds are diatribes. And that's fun because we also had diatribes somewhere else. What was it? Tirades, there it is. Anyway, okay, shuffles and such. Well, it probably also ends with an S, doesn't it? And business blank. And here we have pings, maybe, right? I thought that could maybe be IMs. Certain anti-inflammatory medicines. Steroids, I think, are anti-inflammatories. Actually, that could be IMs. Interesting. I was fairly skeptical of that. And here we have business. Turpentine yielding conifer. So here's one I don't think I know in terms of the substance, but presumably it's a type of tree, so it will be fairly obvious when we have enough crosses, but it's not something I would have known offhand. Hymns of Thanksgiving. And here we have shuffles and such. What is a shuffle? I don't really know what this is describing. Rental units, I mean apartments perhaps? And don't reckon so. Could be nah, that would sort of match the tone. Don't reckon so is it's a sort of colloquial bit of speech, and so is nah to mean nah, don't reckon so. They sort of go together. Right. Number pattern named after a 17th century French mathematician. Is it Pascal's? That was my first thought, but I didn't know what the rest of it is. Pascal's? I mean, Pascal was my first thought because of French mathematician, but then I didn't know what the number pattern was, so I went to Fibonacci sequence because it's a very famous number pattern. But what is that? But I don't know what the actual pattern would be after Pascal's. Does that work? Turpentine yielding conifer. Oh, the larch is a tree, so that must be one. And business hours, of course. Business hours of a particular establishment. Hymns of Thanksgiving, and then what was this? Is this citation or something? Sort of looks familiar. And here we have biblical punishment. Maybe it is smiting after all. It does start with an S. And here we have two-person log cutters. What kind of saw? I'm not sure. Teddies and such. Actually, I don't think this is smiting because teddies and such, I suspect, is intimate apparel. So actually, this might not be diners either. Interesting. So I think, as I've pointed out before, I think one of the things that makes a more difficult puzzle more difficult isn't necessarily just that the answer is more obscure, although with something like number pattern named after a 17th century French mathematician, that might be the case with some clues and answers. But a lot of it, whatever the answer to Yelp reviewers say, is it's not going to be something that's obscure or difficult to access as a piece of vocabulary. It tends to be that the cluing is more vague. So there isn't necessarily one single obvious, unambiguous answer. That tends to be, I think, a big part of what makes a puzzle more difficult on a more difficult day. So you need to be able to access more possibilities of what a given clue could mean, and that does seem to be the case here. Pin saws. I think this might just be something I don't know offhand. Pit saws. Very sorry. So here's definitely an example of something where some of you watching will have known what this was instantly, and it's got to be very frustrating to watch me fumble around with it. So, biblical punishment, stoning. There we go. Okay. And certain account information. It could be SSN, actually. Anosmia? That sort of sounds familiar. Is that it? And exhausted beyond belief. Too tired. Yeah, okay. So pit saws, anosmia, and too tired to think. There we go. All right. I think that's going to help us close out this puzzle. Hymns of Thanksgiving. Te Deum, so something to God. Pascal's triangle? Perhaps. I actually don't think I know what that is. Does that have any relation to a triangular number? Like triangular number of 8, which is the number of this cell, would be 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, which is 36. Yes. Yelp reviewers. Haters, perhaps. No, not haters, raters. And that actually does make triangle work. So Te Deum. Yes, okay. And then shuffles and such. iPods. Okay. I'm not at all surprised that I didn't land on iPods for shuffles. So it's a marketing brand name for a type of iPod, the iPod Shuffle. I wonder if they still sell those. I think they might. Pascal's triangle. Surely that must be what this is. And then here we have elk meat, lean protein. Not at all surprised I didn't get that without the crosses, although had I looked back at it with the L and the K, I think I surely would have. Here we have stretches, lengths. There we go. So this is Sasha Gervaisi, surely. That's frustrating that I didn't see the G and the H here and land on lengths. I'm disappointed in myself for that one. And a reaction to a really bad pun is a grimace. So it was Sasha, but I misremembered the spelling of Sasha, and that surely is at least one reason I didn't get a grimace as a reaction to a really bad pun. That would have been helpful. A lot. And here we have lot. Oh, I see. One's lot, one's fate, one's lot in life, one's destiny, or the reality to which one is consigned. Okay. Fat. Increased likelihood of... fat tail. I see. Right. So in a standard distribution, if you imagine a sort of bell curve, the extreme scenarios have a very low likelihood of happening. They're low on the y-axis. But a fat tail, one of the tails could be bigger than normal, and so the likelihood of extreme scenarios would be more. It would be higher. I see. That makes sense. I don't know that I'm deeply familiar with that term, but it sort of logically bears out. Okay, perhaps this is Willa Player. There we go. There's a name that fits in here. And then this must be Club Pro, which sort of occurred to me, but I wasn't really sure if it was plausible. And then a calm. See, here's a perfect example of what I mean when I speak about answers on a more difficult puzzle, not necessarily being any less accessible to a person with, ordinary knowledge, like any of us that are non-specialists in a subject. It's just that we would ordinarily think of calm as an adjective. In this case, but it can also be a verb or a noun. And in this case, it's a noun, a calm in the action, a lull in the action here. There were a few of those. There were a few lulls in my solve of this crossword. Anyway, whatever's left is all else. There we go. If all else fails, I suppose. And there's the Saturday puzzle. Boy, that was a workout, but I really enjoyed it. It was quite a tough puzzle, and I think accurately, I was appropriately intimidated by it right off the bat because of the emptiness of this grid. And we have what looks sort of like a little stylized percentage icon, which does tie into the deciles clue, I suppose, arguably. I mean, this is a Saturday puzzle, so it's an unthemed crossword. It's a themeless crossword, so I wouldn't suggest that was any kind of big overriding thing, but it might have been a little nod by the constructor, just to get something, a little bit into the themeless puzzle. And there were a few echoed clues and answers in the crossword as well. We had 2 La Bohème's clues. We had 2 diatribe clues. So there was, and you could say tense and statistics. Oh, and actually that mirrors the fat tail in statistics. Look at that. So we have 2 statistics clues in symmetrical positions in the grid. And in fact, they're framing the percentage graphic here, if indeed that's what that is. So a few little, some very subtle little fun, maybe tiny scraps of theming by Freddie Chang to liven up the themeless puzzle. But yes, this was a fun one. I really did struggle at times throughout it, but I don't think it was ever particularly unfair, to be honest. I don't think there was anything in here that feels that I solved and then thought, well, that was absurd. That was utterly ridiculous. I think it actually came together quite well, even if it gave me some resistance. So look at these big, long answers. Boy, this is impressive, these grid-spanning bits of fill. The number pattern named after a 17th century French mathematician, Pascal's triangle. I'll have to look that up because I'm not sure offhand what it is. Intimate apparel, or teddies and such. Too tired to think if one is exhausted beyond belief. To do some modeling is to set a good example. That's quite clever. And life is short. Eat dessert first, says Jacques Torres' quip. And steady as she goes, the captain's phrase. Very good. Fun puzzle. Really enjoyed that. Well done, Freddie Chang. And I don't think, let me know how you fared. I mean, it was a Saturday puzzle, so it was tricky. So do let me know. And that wasn't such a long slog that I will cancel my intended Wordle solve. So let's try it. Let's see if today's Wordle is which pattern it fits. The common word that we can narrow. Oops, where's the oops? What have I done? Sorry. There we go. Not sure what happened there. The common word we can narrow in on, or the obscure word that we have to pluck out of the ether. Let's try stare. I've gotten myself into this horrible state where I keep starting with stare, not because I've determined it's some kind of brilliant starting move, but because now I've done it a couple times, my brain goes blank when I'm trying to think of any other 5-letter words, which is absurd. Okay, so we have an A in the correct position and an R somewhere else. Let's see. Heart? Wow, okay. Rack? Okay, we're closing in. Crank. Oh. I think I think I might have solved this one last night, actually. These must go up at my time zone must mean these. I think I actually solved this yesterday with a completely different path, actually. So I guess I didn't start with stare yesterday because I had now that I see crank, I'm pretty sure I solved it before. So I solved this word a second time, but it didn't seem to give me any help. Anyway, there's my Wordle for today. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Saturday puzzle. Whoops. I very much did. Well done, Freddie Chang. Great Saturday puzzle. It's a nice counterpart, actually, to yesterday's Friday puzzle, which was yesterday's Friday by Robin Weintraub was, I think these two puzzles are a great example of a Friday themeless versus a Saturday themeless. I think Robin's Friday yesterday was very smooth solving as far as a Friday goes. It was a pleasant themeless solve. And today's Saturday, much more resistant. So we really see the difference between the two themeless days. Friday, still difficult, but much fairly smooth solve. And then Saturday, we're stepping it up, harder difficulty, much more resistant. So I think two standout examples of our two themeless day puzzles. Great work this week from our constructors. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to share your Wordle graphics or discuss today's crossword with other members of this community, check out the Daily Solve Discord chat server. There's a link in the description field underneath the video. And of course, Patreon subscribers get access to an additional channel in there. But broadly, the chat server is free for anybody to join. So check that out if you're interested. Do subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this series, and pass it along to a friend directly or through your online community of choice if you think you might know somebody who would enjoy it. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have today. So I hope you'll be back tomorrow for the Sunday puzzle. We're back to themed crosswords tomorrow and a much bigger grid, so a long, leisurely solve. Do join me for that. But until then, have an excellent remainder of your Saturday. Take care.